Worried your son's talent is being overlooked by college coaches? Here's the real way to get noticed, even if you don't have connections. In this video, I'll show you the exact steps families use to get their sons in front of college recruiters, regardless of location or their team. By the end, you'll know the 4 proven methods to reach college coaches and the common mistakes that cost players opportunities. Let me give you a quick reality check. 97% of high school football recruits will not get a scholarship. And this isn't whether you do certain things or not. Out of 100% of high school football players, only 3%, about 3%, it's really 2.7%, get a scholarship. That's the actual odds. So if you have a high school team of let's say 50 players, maybe you have a little bit more, maybe you have a little bit less, that means only 1 to 2 of them are going to get a scholarship. So hopefully that kind of hits you in that, hey, you have to take this thing seriously, because there are only so many opportunities out there. Realistically, there's about 7,000 scholarships that are signed each year. That means out of the 250,000 high school football seniors there are year after year, there's only 7,000 that they're actually competing for, which is why you get those numbers. So if you want to be a part of the about 3%, you need to be proactive, and you need to be proactively reaching out to these coaches. You can't just be waiting, hoping that they're gonna see your film. You need to make it happen. Now you may be wondering yourself, okay, how does that actually work? How do we reach out to these coaches? How do coaches actually see you, recruit you, offer you scholarships? The reality is we're in the modern recruiting era. Back in even the early 2000s, but especially, back in 1990, 1980, decades ago, way before even my time. Now, the old school way of recruiting was that you would see players in person, or maybe they would mail in a tape of them. But the reality is in 2025, coaches don't need to do that anymore. They don't even need to see you in person to be able to offer you a scholarship. And so coaches use digital communication as a way to recruit athletes. They don't have to come by your school and see a game, or instead they can do this all just through video, which makes their job, yes, a little bit easier, but it also means that if you're not getting out there on social media, if you're not emailing these coaches, if you're not reaching out and making yourself visible in what is the digital world, you're not gonna get noticed. And so yes, you can ball out on Friday nights, week after week after week. The reality is there's probably no college coaches that are there actually watching your games and actually seeing you perform. And so if it's not on social media, if it's not getting emailed to college coaches, if it's not getting seen by college coaches, then how are you gonna get offers? How are you gonna get interest from that? And the issue is that most families, most parents, most recruits don't realize this until it's way too late. Now, for the college football recruiting world, there are 4 ways to get in contact with college coaches. Now, there are other ways, which I can touch on a little bit later, but these are really the only 4 ones that are going to be the most effective, the most worth it of your time. Now, the first one is connections. Using coaches, trainers, your network to get in touch with coaches through someone else, essentially. You're trying to use that person as a middleman to connect yourself with a college coach. You probably heard the term, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And this is kind of what the connection game is based off of. That you use your network, who you know, to ultimately get yourself in touch with the people that you want to get in touch with most, the coaches, the college coaches. So that way they can see your film, they can recruit you at the end of the day. I'm not a huge fan of connections just because there can be this little bit of inauthentic style of it, in a sense that like the coach or the trainer is obviously incentivized to have them recruit you, and they may be calling in favors to get extra looks or get offers, which sometimes they can be fake if you use connections, which is a whole nother story. The issue also with it is that it's really just one way to get in touch with these coaches, and obviously it can be limited. Coaches, trainers, your network, obviously you can only be connected to so many coaches. And so when you're using the connections, it's usually just not good to use only connections to get recruited, because obviously you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And that's the same with all of these, is like, you don't want to just use one, you want to use multiple. So that way you're not just restricting yourself to one way to getting recruited, but maximizing it to find that best fit opportunity. As well as, again, you're using someone else, and again, who knows how strong those connections are, who knows what is actually going on behind the scenes, what's being said. And so rather than just relying on these connections, I would, also do your own, recruiting outreach, so that way you can build your own real relationships with these coaches rather than just rely on, again, some kind of third party to manage this stuff. A good example of these connections and where it can go right and as well as where it can go wrong is your high school coach. Maybe your high school coach knows college coaches stop by his school, and they say, hey, you don't even have to worry about the recruiting process, I got you covered. Now, some of the cons with that is that, hey, he's realistically got a bunch of other players on the team that he's worrying about as well. And so is he gonna promote you as much as you're gonna promote yourself? Of course not. He's got other responsibilities. He's got a family probably. He's got, his other stuff in his job description. And so you can't necessarily trust your high school coach to, really maximize your opportunities there. It definitely can allow you to get a leg up with some of those coaches, but can you really trust them to put in the required effort, or at least the effort that you want done for your future? Now, the second one is camps. A lot of people know about camps, and obviously that's often a big recruiting strategy, is like, oh, we're gonna go camps this summer. And the thing with camps is that camps can be good, but to be honest, are not necessarily the best way to get in contact with coaches. What I mean by this is when you go to camps, you will see that the coaches are usually looking at players that they already know. It'll feel like, especially at Division I camps, it'll feel like that you're kind of on the outside and you're just kind of there while they're looking at the kids that they actually want to look at. Like there's some kind of list, and there usually is a short list of kids that they've been talking to for a while, they've already evaluated, and they're pretty much just confirming at the camp and then probably gonna offer at the camp or decide to offer later based on later film. The thing with camps is like, this is often like the number one exposure method is like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to a ton of mega camps, we're gonna go to all these big time camps, and they're gonna see how amazing of a player I am, my son is, and that's gonna be that. We're gonna get a ton of offers. And that's just not a good strategy. Now, you may think it is a good strategy just because, like I mentioned, this is really the only in-person time that you're gonna get with a coach. And obviously in-person evaluations are very key. It can, have a huge impact on recruiting. But again, if college coaches aren't actually looking at you at the camp, then how are you gonna get an offer at the camp? And so it definitely can happen where you show up to the camp, the coaches don't know about you beforehand, you absolutely impress, you perform extremely well, and then you get an offer from that camp. But it is extremely rare, and you will see this happen. Maybe you already noticed it. Maybe you're a current senior, you went to camps this last year expecting to get a ton of offers and interest, and really nothing happened because they already kind of had their guys picked out. Really the way that I look at camps is it is an evaluation tool for the coaches rather than an interest generating tool. And again, this is mostly at the Division I level. If you're talking D2, D3, NA schools, you can definitely go to the camps and stand out a little bit more just because it's lower competition generally, as well as the coaches don't necessarily have these huge boards. And so you can jump up on their boards a lot easier at camps than you can at Division I schools. Again, really the key here is that we want to get on their list before camps, so that way the camps really just turn into this another step of the recruiting process with them, instead of it being this trying to get their attention stage. So we want to get their attention prior. That way we go to camps that we actually know are worth our time, instead of wasting our time going to 20 camps, just kind of throwing stuff at the wall left and right, which is the strategy for most families. The best families I've seen, and what we try to teach with our families is, hey, let's be real selective about our camp strategy. Let's really the camp process happens like 6-12 months before, where you're starting to build those relationships. And then you're like, okay, cool, I have a good relationship with this coach. They're clearly interested in me. I know it's gonna be worth my time. Let's go to this camp. Instead of flying around all the country, hoping to get some interest. Now, the third one is email. Now, email is a tried and true method. A lot of people will tell you email doesn't work, and that's just not true. Now, the raw reality is that email is definitely hard to stand out just because there's so many people that know to send emails to college coaches, especially the emails that are public on a college football coach's website. You'll search a college football coach, you'll search up Alabama college football coaches, which Alabama doesn't usually have their emails public. But anyway, I digress, is that's gonna get a lot of competition because it's publicly out there. And so email still works, but it is very competitive. And so the key to email is a couple different things. There's really, 4 key things. So number one is volume. And so this is really gonna be the most impact on how well your messages perform, is the amount that you send. One of the things that I have a huge pet peeve of is when someone tells me, man, we're sending messages and we're getting no responses. And I ask them, how many are you sending out? And they tell me, oh, we've only sent out like 15, 20. And I'm like, yeah, that's not enough. We send out for our families close to 400 to 500 per week total messages. That's between email and the other method I'm gonna talk about in a bit, X. We're only expecting to get anywhere between like 1 to 5 responses per week for each family that we're sending out that many messages to. You're generally expecting to get around a 1% response rate, especially on email, 1%. That means you send out 100 messages, you're expecting to get 1 response back. If you get more than that, like, you should be stoked. And so that is the truth. Like, if you're not putting in enough work to get the responses, like if you're not putting enough work, then why are you expecting to get the responses? And so you have to put in just the base amount of effort to be able to get the attention from coaches. And the reason for this is a lot of different things. Like I said, there's a ton, like realistically, Division I coaches are getting at least over 100 emails per day in their inbox. Some of those are obviously going to spam as well, but they're getting sent at least over 100 emails. As well as, they don't necessarily have a lot of time to check all of that. So you need to try to give yourself as many opportunities as possible, and as well as making sure it stands out. And so that's kind of the second piece, is the message itself is obviously another thing. So you need to be making sure your message stands out in some way. So that means the subject line needs to have things that's gonna catch the coach's attention. This can be like your strengths as far as stats, measurables, meaning your height, weight, 40 times, stuff that coaches might get a glimpse of and be like, oh, that'd be worth checking out. You always want to include your position and graduation year, as it's going to be the number one thing a coach is looking for. And then the email itself, to be fair, can be relatively simple. You don't want it to be this super long paragraph where you're talking about trying to sell yourself to the coach of a good player. Like the worst thing you can say in your email is a super subjective wording of, and by subjective, I mean like your opinions of yourself, or if you're a parent writing this, your opinions of your son, that he's a good leader, he's a hard worker, he's a good player. That stuff, a coach is just gonna roll his eyes and go, I don't care, I don't even know if I wanna watch his film at this point. Because the whole goal of messages that we send to college coaches is to get them to click on the film. That's it, because that's what they need to make the decision of if they're gonna recruit the kid or not. No coach is gonna recruit a kid that they haven't seen actually be able to play. And so you need to make sure that your whole goal of your email here is to get the coach to actually click on the film and watch it from there. And so you should be linking your film ultimately. You can link your X profile as well, but really the main thing is the actual film itself. And that's gonna lead me into the third thing that's important about email, is just the highlights. Now, I'm not gonna go into a whole thing about highlights because we're gonna do a whole nother video on that. The actual value that you provide to a coach is gonna be a big reason of how good your response rate is. Because if your film sucks, you're not gonna get any responses back. That's just the truth. You need to make sure that your film is packaged correctly. It shows coaches what they wanna see. And also know that, hey, if your film isn't that good, just know that, hey, like, I'm not gonna get as many responses, and that's perfectly fine as well. You can still put in the effort, still get responses. It's just gonna take a little bit more effort to get coaches that are gonna go, okay, I wanna take a chance on this kid and actually recruit him as well. And then the fourth thing, the most important part, is follow-ups. I already talked about volume, so this is kind of part of volume, but follow-ups are extremely key. I was talking to my head recruiting coach on Tuesday, and we were talking about email campaigns, performance of them, what works, what doesn't work. And we were going through the data of like, what is getting responses, what's not. And our campaigns that blow up, campaigns that, get tens of responses from college coaches, and this is ranging from anywhere. We have 2028s, sophomores currently that, get 20 plus responses in a couple of weeks. And the importance of the follow-ups is that that's what leads to the most responses. Like literally the opening email, the intro email will get like 0 responses, maybe one or two, but they'll get like nothing. I mean, to send all those intro emails, it's gonna take like, usually within a campaign, it's gonna take a week or two. And so for that first week or two, we're like, it feels like nothing's happening for that family. And then all of a sudden, boom, second follow-up email, we get a couple more. Third email happens, boom, we just like 4x the amount of responses. And so that's the thing, is like follow-ups are so key just from a result perspective, but the reality is, like I walked through, is that first email, they may not see it, they may see it and like you, but not want to respond. Whatever the reason is, the coach is extremely busy. They're not seeing every single thing that you send them or that anybody sends them. And as well as like, they've got a lot of other things on their mind. They can just forget to reply to you. They may get caught up when they're watching your film. And then you follow up and they're like, oh, I remember this kid. I actually really liked his film. Let me send him a response back, or let me follow him on Twitter. Let me recruit him. And so you need to be following up constantly. You need to be staying top of mind. It's no longer, hey, I just need to message this coach once and he's gonna remember me. There's a bunch of other recruits for him to go pay attention to. You need to show him why you are the reason that he should pay attention to you, why you should stand out, why you should get that offer, why you should get the time that is so limited to him. And so big thing here is follow up. You need to be following up at least 3 to 4 times. It's usually where we see the most return on, the most results from. We talked about connections, we talked about camps, we talked about email. Those are ones that are all pretty well known by people. The last one is becoming more well known, but it is the number one way to get recruited. It is Twitter, X, as it is currently known as. I still refer to it as Twitter or X, I don't even care. But it is the number one recruiting platform. And the reason why is quite simple. is where all the college coaches are. Now, I don't know the reason exactly why this has happened, but it's just been the case. And I think one of the reasons why is just because the X algorithm is so built for recruiting, and like the whole platform itself is just so well built for recruiting, and that it just transformed into this absolute interest and offer generating gold mine for recruits. And it's starting to become more well known. It's starting to become more filled up with recruits trying to get noticed, but it's still like you can take advantage of it so easily. And it needs to be a place that you spend the most time in your recruiting process if your goal is to get scholarship offers. And now if you're like, Trent, how is this even happening? Like, how do I even know this is true? Number one, go create a Twitter account, go on there a little bit, go follow some coaches and just see their profiles. And you'll see that like, if you found that same coach on Instagram, it's not gonna look nearly the same. They're not gonna be nearly as active on Instagram versus on X. Like, I mean, there's coaches that post every single day on X. They're on there every single day. They're searching on Twitter looking for recruits every single day. Heck, even Bill Belichick, a coach that didn't have a Twitter profile before, has no social media, made a Twitter account once he became the head coach at the University of North Carolina. So that is a pretty good example there as well. What you want to do on X is there's a couple different things that you can do. So you can obviously DM coaches. It's like any other social media platform that you can DM people. It's got a pretty good DM system that makes it quite manageable for coaches to kind of go through there. As well as you can post on there. You do have a profile, so you can make posts to that profile, and it goes to out to the public, which allows you to get seen by other people as well. And then you do have your profile, which is kind of like your recruiting resume, at least in 2025. And so that is a really key place where you want to put some time in, make sure your profile looks professional, it stands out, it's showing coaches what they want to see, so that way they follow you, they check out your posts, and they recruit you later on. Now, as far as the sending messages to college coaches, it's very similar to email in terms of the structure of things, our whole goal, as far as getting the coaches to actually click on the highlights and watch the highlights. So that way, hopefully they see them, they like them, and they want to respond or want to follow you or whatever the case might be. Now, as far as a profile goes on X, you want to make sure, again, it's super professional, it stands out, it's very clear in terms of that you are a committed kid that wants to play college football and has all the information that coach needs. So a couple of key points here is you want to make sure that you have a profile picture that shows your face or shows yourself playing football. You want to have a bio that contains all the information that coach needs. It's kind of like your short summary. So this is stuff like height, weight, GPA, the high school that you go to, your position, your graduation year. You can also include things like strengths. It's kind of like a longer subject line almost of an email. And then you also want to have, so one of the unique features of X is they have what's called a pinned tweet. So this is a tweet that you pin to your profile, to the top of your profile, to make sure that's the first thing that someone sees when they come across your profile. And so what you want to do with this pinned tweet is you want to make sure that it is your highlights, your most recent highlights. So for example, if you've already finished the season, then what you're going to make this is going to be your full season highlights from the year before. Or if you're in the middle season, it's going to be whatever the most recent compilation of highlights is. For example, I'm recording this in September. And so we just kind of got into about 3 games into the season. So one of the big milestones is what they call the 3-game highlights. And so a good pinned tweet right now would be your 3-game highlight showing your best plays from the last 3 games. This should also be a video version of those highlights. And so what I mean by that is like a lot of people will post, hey, check out my highlights, and then just include the link to whatever the platform is. Usually it's Huddle is the most popular platform. And so you don't want to do this because number one, the post won't perform as well. Twitter wants you to stay on Twitter. And so if you include a link to another platform that is going to take you off the app, why would they promote that more? So that means your post is going to get less reach, it's going to get less views, aka seen by less coaches. The second thing is that if a coach wants to see your highlights, they click on the link. This takes them to Huddle, another website where they're going to have to potentially watch an ad because Huddle sometimes has ads, which is just stupid. I don't know where they have it. Please take off your ads, Huddle, so that way people who aren't logged into your app don't have to watch ads. The other thing is that it's creating more friction. It's creating another step in the process that requires more effort. A coach may decide not to watch your highlights just for the simple reason of like, I don't know if it's gonna be worth my time now. So instead you wanna include a video version so that way it's right there on Twitter. They can watch it right there on Twitter. It's gonna get more engagement, more reach, and it's also just easier for a coach to watch. It'll autoplay, so they'll immediately start seeing the plays, and then they can just click on it and open up in a bigger screen if they want to on X, and it makes it super, super simple. A lot of the thing is like, you just want to make it easier for coaches to recruit you, because the harder you make it, the more effort they're going to put in. And honestly, if you make it more effort, like they're going to just eventually go like, is this really worth it? And so you want to make it super, super simple for coaches to be able to recruit you, to evaluate you, and ultimately make that decision of if they want to recruit you or not. Outside of that, you just want to make sure your profile is showing stuff, again, that coaches want to see. You want to make sure that there's no bad plays on there. It's all stuff that gets coaches excited about you, as far as training clips, highlights, recruiting updates, all those kinds of things. Now, hopefully you understand the 4 best ways to get noticed by college coaches. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there are other ways that get seen by college coaches. Technically, you could use things like Instagram, Facebook, but realistically, that's not necessarily going to get you a ton of attention. It's just not, I haven't seen a ton of results. I've heard stories of people getting, messaging a coach on Facebook and getting recruited from it, but I haven't seen a ton of results on that. And so I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, go spend a ton of time on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram posting a bunch of stuff on there, because ultimately you're just not really going to get recruited much on those platforms as much as it is on these 4 ones. As well as you could potentially call some of the phone numbers that they have on their websites. But again, you're usually going to go to voicemail. It's not going to be worth a ton of time. But at the end of the day, getting noticed by college coaches isn't luck. It's a system, but it does take years to master. If you want help building that system for your son, click the link in the description to book a call. We've helped over 150 families secure scholarships, and we'd love to help yours next.